So what other visual perception tools does your brain use to make sense of the world around you? Well, one of the most fundamental mechanisms at work is your ability to perceive motion. And without it, you'd have a lot of trouble navigating your daily life and making sense of even the simplest things you see. Don't believe me? Take a look at this spinning ballerina. We've got a question for you, but take a second to really think about it before you answer. Which direction is she spinning? Is it clockwise? Or is it counterclockwise? If you're watching with a friend, feel free to ask them the same question. Got your answer? Well, if you said clockwise, congratulations, you're right. And if you said counterclockwise, I'm sorry, but you're also right. So, how can both answers be correct? As you watch the dancer, specific cells in the back of your eyes are working to detect motion, either from right to left or left to right. Since here your brain has no additional depth cues, like shadow, perspective lines, or a face, it uses the limited information available to decide on a direction. This is what we call a bistable image. But what exactly is that?
A bistable image is an image that can be interpreted in one of two possible ways. And what's interesting about the spinning dancer is you can see it rotating clockwise, or you can see it rotating counterclockwise. It's entirely ambiguous.
So if your brain interprets the leg pointing out as the dancer's right leg, she'll spin counterclockwise. But if your brain sees the leg pointing out as the left leg, she'll spin clockwise. In fact, our brains are so hardwired to seek out visual cues that when you look at a side-by-side comparison, both dancers spin the same way, even if we add the face and shadow cues to just one of the dancers. Are they both spinning the same way? How about now? Did they both suddenly change direction? And what's really cool is that even when we take away the visual cues, our brains will continue to see both dancers spinning in whatever direction the last visual cue indicated, even though we're not altering the silhouette on the left at all. Counterclockwise? Clockwise. Counterclockwise? Clockwise. Phew, my brain's exhausted. Every time your brain processes an object in motion, like that ballerina, it makes instantaneous decisions about the size, shape, speed, and direction of that object. And it's particularly good at isolating one type of object that it knows to be important: faces. You guys recognize this famous brainiac, right? It's Albert Einstein. Now take a look at this mask of Einstein. It may not make you a genius, but can you figure out if this is the front of the mask or the back of the mask? Got your answer? I'll give you a hint. The answer is relatively simple. Have you decided if this is the front of the Einstein mask or the back of the Einstein mask? Before we reveal the answer, let's see what some other people thought when we asked them the same question about the famous professor.
We're approaching this Einstein mask, and as we get closer, I want you guys to identify which is the front of the mask and which is the back of the mask.
Whoa! The back looks like the front.
Did you also think the back of the mask was the front? If so, that's a completely normal response.
My eyes and my brain were both playing a trick on me at the same time.
Just about everyone we showed this mask to couldn't tell the back from the front. But why is that?
The hollow face illusion reveals something that our visual system does quite well, which is to try and make sense of the world in the most typical way it can. We're used to seeing normal faces, not faces that are hollowed out. And your visual system assumes that when it gets something ambiguous that could be a face, that it must be a face.